Hello and welcome to my Battle for Azeroth Survival Hunter spec review. In this video I'm going to go over some of the spells, some of the changes, the talents, how they interplay with each other, and basically a little bit on the general gameplay. With that said, let's jump right into the abilities. First is Aspect of the Cheetah. I believe this is a little bit of a buff at 90% speed increase for 3 seconds, then 30% for another 9 seconds. Basically the same function as it is in live. Aspect of the Eagle is considerably different. It now makes your Raptor Strike have a 40-yard range for 15 seconds, making your spec kind of a melee ranged hybrid. Next is Aspect of the Turtle. Pretty much does the same thing. Call Pet, same thing. Coordinated Assault is a new ability. It's basically a 20-second buff for a 20% damage increase for both you and your pet. Also, it increases the chance for Kill Command to reset by 25%. Kill Command is a extremely new to the survival hunter, not new to the hunter in general. It's pretty much the damaging spell for Beast Mastery, but we'll get into that in just a second. Disengage, pretty much the same as it is in live. Eagle Eye, same. Exhilaration is a heal. Feign Death, same as it is. Flare, same. Freezing Trap, same. Harpoon does pretty much what it does now. It holds them in place for 3 seconds, gets you to your target faster. Intimidation is now baseline. This is once a Beast Mastery only. It's basically a 5-second stun from your pet. Kill Command is now a survival ability. It gives your pet the command to kill, causing them to do physical damage, and baseline has a 25% chance to immediately reset its cooldown. This is your focus generator. It generates 15 focus. Disregard the charges on it. That's part of a talent that I will go to a little bit later. Misdirection, same. Muzzles your silence. Your pet utilities, they're all the same. Primal Rage is your command pet ability. Very similar to the Warlock's command pet ability, but this is now baseline for pretty much all pet families. Pets have gotten a big overhaul, but that's a more in-depth topic for another day. But Primal Rage is basically your bloodlust, your heroism, your whatever that crazy thing the mages do that's a cheap ripoff of the same thing. It gives you 30% haste for 40 seconds. And it has you won't be able to get the same effect for 10 minutes. Raptor Strike is your main damage dealing ability. It is your focus spender. It does pretty good damage. It requires a two-handed weapon. Now that we don't have artifact weapons, we're a two-handed weapon class. I guess technically you can use one-handed because, I mean, hunters have been weapon whores the entirety of WoW, but you can't use some of your abilities with them. So Raptor Strike is your focus spender. Serpent Sting is now baseline. It was once a talent, but now it's a baseline ability. It's a dot. It does a moderate amount of initial damage, but it does a considerably more damage over 10.5 seconds. It costs 20 focus, and it's instant cast. Next is, well, this says Shrapnel Bomb. Let me change the talent out right now so you can see what it is. Actually, that was not the right one. There we go. Your Wildfire Bomb, which is your baseline. What you saw previously was the result of a talent, which we'll go into in just a second. But it's basically, this replaces your Explosive Trap. It's direct, it does initial damage, and then it does damage over time for 5 seconds. Disregard the 2 charges, that is also part of a talent. Wing Clip, same, reduces speed. And the last thing we have on here is Mastery. Mastery is now it's your pet's focus spending abilities, and your focus spending abilities deal more damage. And while your pet is active, you and your pet regenerate 4.1% of your maximum health every 5 seconds. So giving you the ability to survive kind of fits the whole survival hunter motif. But with that, let's go into the talents. First row, and I'll say this at the onset, what you choose in certain rows of talents will affect your choices in other rows of talents and will affect your gameplay. So the first talent is Viper's Venom, and it basically gives your Raptor Strike a chance to make your next Serpent Sting cost no focus and deal 300% initial damage. Now the damage over time component is not changed with this, but the initial damage it does is. Right now the tooltip says it does 451, so 300% extra damage. That's a pretty good extra buff to your damage. There's that. Next is terms of engagement. This makes your harpoon deal 2,000 physical damage and generate 40 focus over 10 seconds. So now I think this was a artifact weapon ability where your harpoon would do damage over time. This is kind of a choice to bring it back. Plus, it helps you generate focus, which focus generation is going to have a big impact on your play style. Other things such as haste will probably come in more to play later, but these talents, which one will be the most viable at any given time, will probably vary as you go on, level up, and you get more stats. So the next one is Alpha Predator. Your kill command now has 2 charges and deals 30% increased damage. So I like this one. It kind of makes the spec flow a little better. You have a 25% chance for it to immediately reset. If you've got 2 of them, you're going to be able to keep your focus more even, so you're not starved. Because when you're starved and you're just sitting there for it to generate enough to be able to use an ability, it slows everything down, makes things not fun. Next row, these are basically your AoE. This is your AoE talent tree level. So Guerrilla Tactics gives your Wildfire Bomb 2 charges and increases the initial explosion by 100%. This is a pretty good, and your choices here can affect how you're going to make other talent choices later on. Hydra's Bite, this is kind of a pretty good help for your AoE, and this kind of has a little bit of an interplay with Viper's Venom, so you may want to choose these together in tandem if this is the type of playstyle that you prefer, and makes your Serpent Sting Fire at 2 additional enemy targets near you and increases its damage over time by 10%. 10% is not a lot. These numbers are always subject to change, but like I said, it's a style of play, and the choice you make here may affect choices you make in other levels. So let's go on the next one, which is Butchery. Butchery is pretty much the same as it is on live. It's Carve is gone, so you don't have any other AoE ability. This just adds another ability for you. Your Wildfire Bomb is pretty much your only AoE ability that you have baseline. So Butchery is a melee. It does good damage to all enemies in a flurry of strikes. It's got an 8-yard range, so enemies that are clumped together, you can hit them all for 1288. I don't really like this playstyle, but again, this choice could affect choices you make in other situations, so we'll move on down. Trailblazer, 30% movement increased anytime you have an attack for 3 seconds. I guess that's okay. Natural Mending, every 20 focus you spend reduces the remaining cooldown on acceleration by 1 second. It's got a 2-minute cooldown. That's not a lot. So yeah, I don't like that one. Camouflage. Camouflage fits the flavor of the survival hunter. You blend your stealth, and while you're stealth, you're regaining health. This really isn't going to make a big difference, but I choose Camouflage. Next row, Bloodseeker. Kill command causes the target to bleed over for damage over 8 seconds, and you and your pet gain 10% attack speed for every bleeding enemy within 12 yards. So this one and Alpha Predator have a good interplay. So if that's the way you want to go, that could be a good. And maybe you want to do Butchery because you're trying to kill enemies in close range. You can maximize your damage in a very close melee type range. So that could have good interplay. Next is Steel Trap. Steel Trap is, I'll have to test it out right now to see if, I haven't really tested it out because it says it basically immobilizes them for 30 seconds and causes them to bleed for about 7k damage over 30 seconds. And damage other than Steel Trap may break the immobilization effect. So I don't really know if that actually works if they break it, but if it just does the 7,000 damage approximately over 30 seconds, that's not a whole lot. I'm not going to test it out. I don't like it. Murder of Crows is pretty much the same as it's been. It does damage over time. 9,424, that's actually really good damage for 15 seconds. It's much better than Steel Trap, but it doesn't have the immobilization effect. It has a 1-minute cooldown, but if the target dies while under the attack, it instantly resets. This is going to be your go-to in leveling, so yeah, I would stick with that one if you're leveling and you want to kill stuff fast. Bloodseeker is good, but Bloodseeker is probably going to be good over longer fight. Um, I'm not going to do the math right now, but it's longer fight, probably better in an AoE situation. It's also passive, so if you don't want another ability to press, this is probably your go-to. Next row, Born to be Wild, just basically reduces the cooldown on your aspects. Pretty simple. Post haste is pretty much what you're familiar with. You use disengage, you get a movement speed boost. Binding shot, same as it is, roots enemies in place for 5 seconds. They move more than 5 yards from the arrow. The next row is going to really affect how you play. Tip of the spear makes your kill command increase the damage of your next raptor strike by 15%, stacking up to 3 times. So you get 3 stacks of this and you're going to deal 45% more on your raptor strike. Raptor strike deals about 2,000, so that's a pretty good amount of extra, but again, you've got to kill command 3 times, and I believe this only the tip of the spear buff only lasts for like 8 seconds. It doesn't really say that on the command, but this one will have good interplay with Alpha Predator because you can now have your stacks of kill command. You can stack it in a row because you have 2, and you don't have to wait for it to cool down, which it has a 5-second cooldown, and you don't have to or hope for a reset. So it kind of has good interplay with Alpha Predator. And a little bit of interplay in the next row, but I'll go into that in just a second. Mongoose Bite is pretty much the same kind of play as it is in live. I don't really like this spamming one button. It still uses focus, but every time you basically use it, it deals more damage, and it increases by 20%. It only lasts for 14 seconds. It stacks up to 5 times. So at the end, if you're getting a big hit, you'll get a big hit on a 5 Mongoose Fury Mongoose Bite, but at these current levels and for leveling, you don't have the haste, you don't have the focus regen to really make the most of that. This may be good at higher levels. I don't like the gameplay of spamming one button like 5 times or trying to get focus just to spam one button while you have this and you're this active and you're trying to get this. You're not going to be able to keep up your dots. I don't prefer this play style. But the next one is Flanking Strike. Flanking Strike is completely different from the, well, I shouldn't say completely different. It's fairly different from what it is on live. You and your pet leap to the target and strike as one, dealing 2,800 physical damage. But the key here is this generates 30 focus for you and your pet. This is really good for maintaining, focus regen, and could be useful in probably in longer fights when you need to get it. But right now, you're killing stuff fast enough. For leveling up, it's not as important. I would say Tip of the Spear is probably the way to go. But this is not a bad ability either. It's good focus regen. Last row. Birds of Prey makes your Raptor Strike extend the duration of your Coordinated Assault by 1 second. Now, Coordinated Assault only lasts for 20 seconds. You have to have focus to be able to use Raptor Strike. This probably has good interplay with Mongoose Bite because you're spamming Raptor Strike, and if you're spamming Raptor Strike while you have Coordinated Assault, it's going to stay on. So that probably has good interplay with those. I don't really prefer that play style, and realistically, you're only going to get maybe 5 extra seconds out of this because of global cooldowns and focus regen. So maybe at higher levels it might be good, but like I said, I like how talents have interplay with other talents in the same level, which makes this spec fun and different. So the next one is Wildfire Infusion. This is actually my favorite talent in this row because even though it doesn't necessarily do the most damage, and it does fairly consistent damage, though, it makes the play style less predictable. It makes it challenging and engaging. So basically what this does is it randomly gives you a enhancement to your Wildfire Bomb. There's 3 of them. There's Shrapnel Bomb, which causes your Raptor Strike or Butchery to apply a bleed for 9 seconds that stacks up to 3 times. That bleed is fairly significant. It doesn't. This tooltip's kind of vague right now. It doesn't say how much damage it does, but it does pretty good damage. The next is Pheromone Bomb, which causes your kill command to have a 100% chance to reset. This is extremely helpful if you're very low on focus. You can get it back real quickly by spamming a few times with your kill command, and this has good interplay with Tip of the Spear. You get 3 of them, and then you Raptor Strike, you have focus, and then you can do a big hit. Also, this is really good interplay with guerrilla tactics, which gives you 2 charges, and it lets you be able to plan out a little better while it's cooling down, because this has a 15-second cooldown. So the last one is Volatile Bomb. Reacts violently with poison, causing an explosion against enemies suffering from your Serpent Sting, and refreshes your Serpent Sting. This kind of has good interplay with Hydra's Bite. So like if you say you have lots of enemies in an area, and you've gotten your Serpent Sting on all of them, and you're about to have Volatile Bomb, you're going to hit them all for a lot harder. They'll all be affected by it. So that's kind of got good with that. But I think I still like having 2 charges of this better. And it's going to be random. So there's a random aspect to your play. You've got to really, it gives you that extra thing to pay attention to. But yeah, it's just fun and different. Last is Chakrams. Chakrams is a old spell, not a whole lot changed with it. It does damage. It does pretty good damage out, and it does pretty good damage on the way back in. Not really anything too interesting about it. It's on a 20-second cooldown. It's ranged. It's got a 40-yard range. Just another ranged ability. Not really, I don't really see how it plays into the whole survival motif, but that is what it is. So that's pretty much everything. I'll give you a little bit of gameplay here so you can see how it actually plays against an actual, mob in the leveling process. Alright, I am going to pick a fight with some Vulpera. Now, the main thing I want you to see from this is that they don't call it a survival hunter for nothing. It is very difficult for you to get killed by stuff. Like, incredibly difficult. So I'm going to spam some stuff in here. Yeah, I made quick work of those guys. These are at level. I believe I'm level 110. Yeah, I'm level 110. So this is, pretty good for this spec. You're not going to die easily. Your damage you're doing is not awful. I actually testing some of the other specs. It's about on level, on par with what's currently out there, and I like the way it plays. It's got good interplay in the talents, which I like, and it's fun. It's different. I like that it's different too. That is a big thing for me, because playing the same old gets tired very quickly. So that's pretty much all I have on this. Thank you for joining me for this video. If you like and you want to see more videos on other specs, hit a like, hit a subscribe, and maybe I'll make some more videos. Thanks. See you later.